What's up, guys? This is a fantasy football mock draft that I'm doing today. This is the third video that I've done of this. I will be doing a mock draft video every week leading up to the fantasy football season. So if you're interested in that, check out this channel. I'm basically going to go through an ESPN format of the mock draft that they have for fantasy football. This is a 12-team head-to-head mock draft points league. I'm going to be drafting, I believe, 11th. So the point of this is to illustrate basically that, you have, you can draft at the end of the draft, but that doesn't mean that you're out of luck. You can still do well. You can still have a good opportunity to win in fantasy football. So, and I'm going to demonstrate that with this video, go through the picks, letting you know what I would do. And yeah, so if you're interested in these kind of videos, check out my channel. I do a lot of different content, but for this particular thing right here, I'm doing fantasy football, doing a live video. So if you're interested in fantasy football advice, I only have 89 subscribers right now. So if you have any questions with regards to fantasy football, I will answer your questions. So check it out if you're interested. I make videos of every team. I've done all but 3 teams so far this offseason. I'm going to finish out the rest of the teams next week, and then we will go from there and get ready for drafts, get ready for the fantasy football season, things like that. So if you want fantasy football advice, check out my channel, and because I don't have a lot of subscribers, I will reply to you and answer your questions. And I may even give you a shout out on the channel if you show support. So I've got 45 seconds about until I start. Also got the Olympics going on in the background. It looks like they're doing the 800-meter run right now. They're doing the heats. This is what I get excited about in the Olympics. I like track because I used to be a runner. It's crazy to me, like the 800 is just, I don't know if you guys are like runners or not, but like the 800 is the hardest event in my opinion because you basically have to sprint the whole time. And I mean, the mile, the 2 mile, the like 5K, 10K, you can kind of ease into it, but 800, you just got to go full go. That stuff's crazy. But yeah, but anyway, we're going to focus on fantasy football in this video here. I'll be drafting 11th, so that'll be right around the range that you'll get kind of late running backs, early the beginning of the receivers that are available. So yeah, we will start this draft. So big news in fantasy football, Carson Wentz, foot injury. That's pretty significant for the Colts because they don't really have a very solid backup plan after Carson Wentz. And with him being out, it significantly limits their whole offense. So we'll have to see how Carson Wentz does. But it's just the same continual theme with Carson Wentz year after year is that he can never stay healthy. He can never put a string of consistency together, and that's why he's already switched teams, even though he's formerly viewed as a franchise quarterback. So he's under pressure this year to perform, and if he is not able to play at all this season or plays injured this whole season because of his foot injury, it's going to really look bad for him. So hopefully, I'm pulling for him that he can, stay healthy and be good to go for the season, but it's not off to a very promising start. So I do apologize. I do not have the screen up on this video, so I can't tell you or can't show you specifically who's available. But I'm going to talk through it, try to give as descriptive an answer as I can. If you have any questions, please let me know. So I'm drafting 11th. I'm also going to be drafting 14th, so beginning of the second round. And the picks I have right now, based on who's available on the draft board, number 11 on the board is Nick Chubb. Number 14 on the board is Antonio Gibson. So my preference would be, given that I'm in the late first round, early second round, is to try to lock up good receivers. I really like the prospects of Devontae Adams. There's questions about how it's going to work out with him and Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be at the same level that he was last year, given his injuries? or I mean, not given his injuries, excuse me, given his contract situation, his holdout, how's he going to perform at the beginning of the season, things like that are a little concerning. But Davante Adams is the focal point of that offense. So if he's available at pick 11, that is who I'm going to target specifically. Other guys that are around the range there that I would be interested in are Tyreek Hill. I think Nick Chubb has value, even though it's slightly limited by the fact that they're going to split some carries with him and Kareem Hunt. Stephon Diggs, another very good focal point to have. Aaron Jones at 13, very good. Antonio Gibson, I'm a little skeptical on. I would much rather have Najee Harris at 16 if he's available, or Calvin Ridley at 17. Austin Eckler, another guy I really like as a PPR player. And then you have DK Metcalf as 20 as the guy who's going to get a lot of target shares with his team. So the first pick just went, and no surprise, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. Derrick Henry went third, a little surprising there. Travis Kelce, 4. Travis Kelce is going to be in high demand, especially just given how tight ends are. Aaron Jones, number 5. That's very surprising to me. Alvin Kamara went next. Excuse me, I'm going to be like drinking a little bit of Gatorade while I'm doing this. So Alvin Kamara and Davante Adams went 7. So it doesn't hurt to take these receivers high, and I think a lot of people are picking up on that. So Saquon seems to be falling in a lot of these boards. He just went right there, but I think a lot of people are very concerned with his injuries, and especially based on the early reports this season, and it doesn't really surprise me that he's fallen a little bit. So after him, surprisingly, Antonio Gibson went number 9. That's a little, I don't think I would do that. Jonathan Taylor went next, and now it's me. It's telling me to take Zeke Elliott, but I'm not a big Zeke Elliott fan for this season. I'm choosing between Tyreek Hill, Nick Chubb, Stephon Diggs, or Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley. So I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill here. He's been top 3 in receiving over the last 3 years, sometimes a little up and down, but I think getting him at right about the value that he got drafted, pretty good pickup there for me. After Ezekiel Elliott, or excuse me, after Tyreek Hill was Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, and then now it's back to me. So I have a choice here of what I could do. I've got Tyreek Hill on a Week 12 bye. So I have a good receiver. I would like to shore up a solid running back. So could go Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, or Austin Eckler. And personally, I'm going to go Najee Harris of that group. Austin Eckler, I could definitely have a case for that as well. But I'm going to go Najee Harris. I think if you had to pick one of those 2 running backs, I would rather take Harris, because I think that the Chargers more often than not actually run more of a committee. Pittsburgh, I think, will kind of gear a lot of that race, or a lot of it, those touches specifically to Najee Harris. Stephon Diggs went next, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I don't go for quite a while now. I've got 18 picks, so I'll be picking at right about 35 on the draft board. Looking ahead at who's available, 35 is Julio Jones, and then you go to 39. That is Darrell Henderson. So I would not take Darrell Henderson that high. I've talked about that a little bit. I think it's a little bit of a trap taking him there that high. So I would much rather take somebody else who's probably going to be more consistent. So hold on a sec. I'm just going to plug my computer in here. I'll be right back. All right. So after Najee Harris, Stephon Diggs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, Calvin Ridley, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, Austin Eckler, fell quite a bit actually. Miles Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins. I'm a little surprised that he's going as low as he is. I know AJ Green is in Arizona, but AJ Green is like practically a non-factor at this point to me. Patrick Mahomes went 2nd round. See, that's part of why I took Tyreek Hill, is because I was thinking it might be a good getting Patrick Mahomes late third would probably be good value, but people aren't going to let him fall that far. That's just really not going to happen. There's a couple guys still available. All the people that I've been looking at are still available for the most part. Justin Jefferson just went. So I think based on the players that are around this range, the people that I'd be interested are Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen. Julio has some interest, but he's kind of seems to be a little bit on the decline for me. Darren Waller and George Kittle are both other good options to take if you want to shore up the tight end around here. That wouldn't be a bad call considering they're right around on the draft board, right around where my picks are going to be. David Montgomery, A.J. Brown, and Terry McLaurin just went off the board. Then you have DeAndre Swift, who's available at 38, Darrell Henderson, CeeDee Lamb, Robert Woods, DJ Moore, Myles Gaskin, then kind of whole laundry list of receivers that people have various levels of hype about. Oh, my goodness. Somebody took Aaron Rodgers third round. That's like, I don't know. I wonder if this guy actually has Devontae Adams, who took him. And he took Aaron Jones. That's a weird combo. Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of like in one game, like if it's a game where they're behind and Aaron Rodgers is going to catch up a lot, like Aaron Jones might not have a lot of points, but then if they just run the ball a lot, then Aaron Rodgers might have a lot of points. That's not a good stack right there, having the running back and the quarterback. I generally try to avoid that kind of stuff. Did Kyle Pitts go before George Kittle? That's a bad pick. So it was Mike Evans, Darren Waller went next, J.K. Dobbins, which to me is like, I'm not a big fan of Ravens running backs because they all split touches. Kyle Pitts went next, Chris Carson, and I still have George Kittle on the board. So I'm going to take Kittle here. I can't believe that they took Kyle Pitts over George Kittle. George Kittle has just been so consistent. I know he was injured last year, but he is the offense for San Francisco. I don't know why I said Arizona, but I don't know why you would take Kyle Pitts over. I know that like Julio is gone, but like we've seen this with TJ Hawkinson, where rookie tight ends struggle a little bit. Adam Thielen went next, then DeAndre Swift. They're telling me to take Amari Cooper. That would be a no. Definitely not taking Amari Cooper. So guys that are available around the place I would be taking are Keenan Allen, Julio Jones, CeeDee Lamb, Robert Woods are the ones that are interesting to me. I took Keenan Allen in an earlier video. I'm probably going to go to a different direction, just illustrate a point, and I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb here because I think CeeDee Lamb is a solid pickup because he's got a lot of potential and promise to of the Dallas receivers, he's the one with the most upside, in my opinion. Played very well in his rookie year, and a lot of receivers tend to do a little better in their second year than their first year. So I think CeeDee Lamb is, of all the Dallas receivers, he's the one to own. And I do that because Amari Cooper was right around the area of CeeDee Lamb, and the guy after me took Amari Cooper. But it's just Amari Cooper is just so inconsistent, it's never worth taking him. That's just my own personal opinion there. Okay, so then after Amari Cooper, it was Josh Allen, Keenan Allen, Darrell Henderson. That's a trap right there because I think the Rams are just going to run a committee now that Cam Akers is hurt. Allen Robinson is not a bad pickup to have. A lot of it is really going to depend on the quarterback play, though, so that's why I didn't take him. Myles Gaskin went next. That's a very boom or bust pick right there. Julio Jones, Robert Woods, and then Kyler Murray. Quarterbacks are going pretty high in this draft. We've already got Allen Murray. I think somebody already took Dak Prescott. I'm not 100% sure. No, it was just Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, I just do not understand. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but Dak Prescott is not a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, especially for fantasy football. I mean, no, Dak Prescott had a great start last season and all that, But Lamar Jackson just gives you so much running wise. Dak Prescott, to me, I mean, he's got potential to do well, but I just don't understand this whole hype about like, oh, top 5 quarterback in the league. That's just I just don't see that with him personally. I think a lot of the reason why he had such good stats is because their defense put them so far behind that they had to catch up in most of those games. Odell Beckham went next, and then it was Mike Davis. But it's just in all these drafts that I've done so far, I've seen Dak Prescott above Lamar Jackson on the board, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. DJ Moore, Chris Godwin went next, and then we're looking at a couple receivers around the range that I would be going, like ones that stand out to me that could do well are Cortland Sutton, Cooper Kupp, Chase Claypool, Michael Thomas. He's got some injury questions, but if he's healthy, should be much higher on the board. Juju, Will Fuller, and then you got some running back sleepers like Chase Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, things like that. So I'm going to try to see if I can get one of these receivers. If I can get Claypool, that's the one that I want. Although I do have Najee Harris, so that kind of limits the potential of having him. Cooper Kupp is probably the one I would take in that situation then if he's still available for me. All right. So after DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson went first of the Pittsburgh receivers. DJ Chark went next. Cortland Sutton, and now it's to me. So I'm going to go Cooper Kupp here. He fell a little bit on his draft board, but I think he's got a lot of potential. It's really going to depend what Matt Stafford's preferences are, but Cooper Kupp is got the most upside of that receiver core. Got to stay healthy, but to me, I think he's a better take than like Robert Woods, for example. So that's personally what I would try to do. So is try to see if you can get Cooper Kupp over Robert Woods. So is Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. So this draft, they actually did take Lamar Jackson over Dak. That's a smart manager right there. And he got Mark Andrews with the stack, so very smart right there. So now it's to me, I could go Michael Thomas here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Travis Etienne as a PPR option for me with potential. But I've got to make sure I back up some other running backs as well because he could take him a little while to get going. So right now, first round pick, Tyreek Hill. Second round, Najee Harris. Third round, CeeDee Lamb. Fourth round, George Kittle. Then I took Cooper Kupp in the 5th round. And then in the 6th round, I took Travis Etienne. So I'm pretty happy with that group overall. And as I've talked about in all these videos, you can go back and watch my other 2 mock draft videos that I've done so far. Make sure that you fill your bench with running backs and wide receivers, and preferably running backs. If you can get a lot of good running backs, it really gives you a lot of chips that you can use to your advantage. I always try to see if I can get max level running backs on a roster, unless there's some situation where I'm not very comfortable with some of my other positions and I want to do some streaming or switch out certain players certain weeks. But in general, I always go 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 1 defense, 1 kicker. You never need, for those 4 positions, you never really need, any more than 1 on a roster. The only exception to that is if you are on bye weeks and you have like Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you're obviously not going to cut him, but you want to make sure that you have his backup as well. Or I mean that you have a backup plan for that week. So that case, you wouldn't cut Patrick Mahomes and you ride 2 quarterbacks. But in general, excluding buys, you want to make sure that you just have one of those 4 positions that I mentioned and just fill up the rest with running backs, wide receivers, because that's the majority of the positions that you're putting out there. So after I took Travis Etienne, then Dak Prescott went off the board. T. Higgins went next. He's being slept on. Russell Wilson got reached for very high, in my opinion. Chase Edmonds went next, and then T.J. Hawkinson. Logan Thomas. This is the same guy that drafted Aaron Rodgers, so obviously that's not good management there. Logan Thomas as I talked about in a video earlier, is somebody I think is just like a one-hit wonder type player where he only really had a good year last year. Javonte Williams, Chase Claypool, Will Fuller, Hunter Henry. People are picking up on Hunter Henry and taking him higher now. Michael Gallup, Dallas Goedert, Michael Thomas fell all the way to the 7th round. Crazy. Juju, Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault, Damian Harris, Kareem Hunt, Robbie Anderson, Brandon Cooks, and now it's back to me. So my auto pick is Justin Herbert. Let me see where he is on the draft board. I'm going to wait on that a little bit. Try to get some more wide receiver depth or positional depth here. So I could go James Robinson and take 2 running backs, but I think I'm probably going to avoid that. I'll go Tyler Boyd because I think that Tyler Boyd, he's going to be on my bench, but he's a consistent enough receiver that you could put him in there and hold over some of your receiver positions, have some pretty good weeks from time to time. So I'm going to do that. And then if Justin Herbert's still available with this next pick, which he is, then I'm going to take him here. So Herbert, got him. So yeah, so I've got Justin Herbert on my team now. So I've got a lot of week 7 buys. That's a little concerning to me, but to me, I don't really worry about like when I pick up players week to week, I don't really worry about like drafting buys like, oh, I've already got 3 people on a buy, I can't take so-and-so. I generally don't worry about that as much because if you do a good job monitoring the waivers, then things are going to change all the time anyway, and you'll find people who can fill those positions. Obviously, you don't want to have your whole team on one bye week, but you want to don't get scared away unnecessarily, in my opinion, and sacrifice somebody who's a significant downgrade. After Herbert, Marquise Brown went, and then it was Deebo Samuel, Robert Tonyan, David Johnson, Tom Brady. Tom Brady should not be drafted in the 8th round. Leonard Fournette, another very questionable pick, and then Ryan Tannehill. These guys are really reaching for quarterbacks, although I guess I don't really have much room to talk because Justin Herbert, I took him. But I mean, I think Herbert is good value here. It's guys like Brady and Tannehill, which are generally not well. I don't want to say Tannehill's immobile because he actually runs for a good amount of touchdowns, but you can replicate both of their value with waiver wire people, in my opinion. James Robinson, Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is generally falling in draft boards, from what I gather. Jarvis Landry, Antonio Brown, Michael Carter, another good sleeper pick, and then Jalen Waddle. People aren't really as hyped about Jalen Waddle either as much as I thought they would be. So now it's going back around to me, and the one that I'm targeting is Cole Beasley. He's available here. Zach Moss, pretty good running back. Ronald Jones, probably the one I would want the most because I think he's got the most upside of the Tampa Bay running backs. And then you've got some other guys coming up like James Conner, Melvin Gordon. Trey Sermon is another running back that I'm very interested in. Kenyon Drake. Michael Pittman Jr., another very good pickup there. But again, a lot of that's going to depend on what's going on with Carson Wentz. Corey Davis went next. That's a very meh pick. Jalen Reagor, another not a good pick. And then Jalen Hurts. That's actually a pretty good pickup, I think. So I got 3 picks ahead of me. I'm hoping they don't take Ronald Jones so I could take him. And they didn't take him. They took Marvin Jones and Noah Fant. So I'm going to shore up some running back. Take Ronald Jones first, in my opinion. And then I was debating between him and Trey Sermon, but I'm going to go with Ronald Jones because Trey Sermon, I think he could be a good running back, but they run a committee. And unless Trey Sermon blows everybody out of the water surprisingly, try to get him. So now what I've got is I've got a choice between Trey Sermon and Cole Beasley. That's a tough one. I think so. It's a close one, but I think since I've already got a lot of week 7 buys, I know I just said don't get like scared off because of bye weeks. But when it's pretty close like this, especially when you got upside with somebody like Trey Sermon, you're going to take him. So I got Trey Sermon. So I'm pretty happy with my running back group right now because I've got 2 rookie running backs with potential, Travis Etienne and Trey Sermon. I've got Najee Harris. Well, I've actually got 3 rookie running backs, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and Trey Sermon, which are all arguably the top 3 rookie running backs out there, depending on what your perspective is. And then I have Ronald Jones, who is a productive enough player who could have some value as well. And then Cole Beasley went right after him. Cole Beasley is a very good PPR player to have, especially his role has increased quite a bit since he's been in Buffalo. Joe Burrow went next. Kind of remains to be seen what his health is going to be like. Mike Gesicki, that's a pretty underrated tight end pickup. James Conner, Jonnu Smith, Darrell Mooney, Melvin Gordon, Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, Nicole Hardman, Irv Smith, and Gronk. So Irv Smith and Gronk, that's a classic example there of like hype and how that drives people's values unnecessarily. I think Irv Smith is going to be a more consistent fantasy player than Gronk, but people are going to reach for Gronk more likely. So that's why I would rather not have somebody like Gronk, because even if they do actually perform about the same, like Gronk you're probably reaching for him if you're taking him before some of these other guys. And then it was Stafford, Eric Ebron, Steelers defense. The same guy is also the same one that has made some other bad picks like Aaron Rodgers, Logan Thomas, and then he picks the Steelers defense in round 11 over the Rams defense. Although it's not a terrible pick, but it's just like it's not very smart play. All right, back to me again. After it was A.J. Dillon, Nelson Aguilar, Jamal Williams, Devin Singletary, Nyheim Hines. So taking a lot of running backs. Trevor Lawrence is still available. I could go Gus Edwards like they're telling me to, or Latavius Murray is another running back. There's a lot of mediocre receivers in there like Devontae Parker, Jacoby Meyer, Elijah Moore. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Alexander Mattison and get a handcuff. And then I'm hoping that J.D. McKissic will still be available at 9. I got numbers confused a little bit, but I'm hoping in 2 picks J.D. McKissic is still available because that is a PPR back that you want as well. And I took Alexander Mattison because if anything were to happen to Dalvin Cook, the number 2 player in fantasy football that got drafted in this draft, then Mattison immediately has value as an RB1. And then it was Gus Edwards and Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is another good handcuff to have, for example. But in this situation, so a couple interesting question here. There's a couple of PPR or potential questions. So you got J.D. McKissic, James White, Tariq Cohen, Giovanni Bernard, all back to back to back to back. All good PPR players. I think if I had to go with any of them, I would probably go with McKissic. A lot of it depends on what Antonio Gibson is going to do, but I just do not trust Antonio Gibson yet because he was not able to stay healthy, and he showed a few flashes of having good games, but it's just remains to be seen how exactly he does. And I think that like Washington, Fitzpatrick, he might be utilizing some more passing downs, shotgun passes out to his running back. So McKissic, I think, is underrated value. So I have 4 picks left. My roster right now: quarterback Justin Herbert, running back Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, they're 2 starters. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle, Cooper Kupp round out my receivers. 2 receivers, tight end, and flex. Bench, Tyler Boyd, Ronald Jones, Trey Sermon, Alexander Mattison, and J.D. McKissic. So pretty happy with that. And back up again, there's a lot of picks that went by. Again, this Team Neptune dude took Younghoe Koo in the 12th round. This dude does not. I hope I'm not trying to point out this dude, but he does not understand fantasy football. Trevor Lawrence, Paris Campbell, a bunch of guys went. Now somebody took Justin Tucker. People are reaching for kickers. Just ridiculous. Interestingly, Randall Cobb is back up now that he's in Green Bay, but I'm going to take Russell Gage here because I think Russell Gage is another very underrated sleeper pick to take from Atlanta, who is going to get a lot of opportunity just simply because they don't have that much. And Russell Gage being taken in the 13th round is flex potential. So that's just, to me, why not take advantage of that? So my last pick I'm going to use is a running back to round out our last bench pick. Darrington Evans is the guy they're telling me to take. Other people that are interesting in this range, Ty Johnson, Devontae Booker. Those are handcuffed guys. Sony Michel, no. Wayne Gallman, no. Justin Jackson. I would only take him if I have Eckler. Salvin Ahmed, he's got some potential. Chuba Hubbard is a decent pickup as well. So given that a lot of these guys are kind of iffy, I'm going to take Darrington Evans as lock up some more handcuffs, give myself some room to work with in case either Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook get injured for some reason. And then my closeout is going to be defense kicker. This is what I always do because, as I say, this is the most exchangeable position in fantasy football is the kicker and the defense, because you could easily find some on waivers that are just as productive as the ones that you draft. So that's why I always kind of get frustrated when I see people taking a kicker in the 11th round of this thing, because you don't need to do that. You can just pick like Younghoe Koo. He was not drafted by anybody last year, and he was the #1 kicker. That just shows you that you do not need to reach for these kickers. And it's crazy because I've seen somebody reach for a kicker in the 7th round. I think he was possibly trolling, but I don't even know. So a lot of picks just went as we're closing this out. To make matters worse, this dude took Ryan Fitzpatrick. I want to look at this guy's roster and just see what he's even thinking. So kickers and defenses that are available to me. It's amazing that for all these kickers being reached, that Harrison Butker is still available. So a couple, the top defense available is the Saints. Harrison Butker is still available as well. I looked briefly at these defenses, and none of them really stand out as great, so I'm going to pick the Saints up. I'm hoping Harrison Butker will still be available in the last round when I pick in 2 more picks. But if he's not really sweating it too much, because you got some other good options like Jason Myers, Jason Sanders, who is also right up there with Younghoe Koo. I think he was tied with him for best kicker last year. Tyler Bass, another solid fantasy kicker to own. Matt Gay for the Rams. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter what kicker you get as long as you understand how their offense is operating. Are they a team converting in the red zone? They're probably not going to get field goals, so it's probably going to limit your ability to get a great number. Is this team also not even getting into the other side of the field? Then they're probably not going to get kicks. So if they're a team that's not doing either of those, or I mean that they're doing both, they're not getting into the end zone, but they're getting down the field enough that they're in the red zone or kicking 50-yard field goals, then it's probably going to be a good kicker for you. And I think a good example of that is Jason Myers, who's available for me right now, because the Seahawks might have trouble running the ball in because they don't always have the most consistent run game at times. Their line play supposedly revamped the line, so we'll see how that plays this year. But I like Jason Myers as a kicker that I'll have. And since I'm picking him last round, if he doesn't pan out, really doesn't cost me that much to just drop him and get another kicker on waivers who is doing well. So that closes out my draft. My roster as constructed right now: Justin Herbert, quarterback; running back Najee Harris; running back 2, Travis Etienne, Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 is CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle at tight end, Cooper Kupp as my flex. Saints defense, Jason Myers rounds out my starting players. Tyler Boyd, 10. Tyler Boyd was on my bench. And then I have Ronald Jones, Trey Sermon, Alexander Madison, J.D. McKissick, Russell Gage, and Darrington Evans. So if you notice, I have 7 out of 8 running backs. And I try to do this because, as I talked about, running backs are extremely valuable to have as chips that you can trade. They're the most injured position, so you want to make sure that you always have backup plans that are constantly evaluating the running back landscape across the league. So getting 7 out of 8, that's the strategy you want to take. You notice I only have 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, and 1 defense. You don't need any more than that. Let's just take a look at this guy who's made some extremely terrible picks throughout this draft. Let's just look at his players. I don't want to make fun of this guy. I'm just kind of creating a point about when you don't make a roster well, this is kind of the stuff you end up with. So his quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. That's not a bad pick, except the fact that he picked him in the 3rd round. Aaron Jones, he took as his running back. I think Aaron Jones is a decent pickup. Myles Gaskin, running back, is not a bad running back, but he's also not really a guy that you really want to rely upon fully. He has DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase. So I guess he took, I'm trying to figure out in the order he probably drafted these guys. I guess he took Metcalf in the 2nd round. Jamar Chase, he probably got in the 4th or 5th round. Logan Thomas at tight end, he took him really high too. That's a very iffy pick to me, taking Logan Thomas that high. Jerry Jeudy, another guy who he's got a lot of potential, but he hasn't really even when Courtland Sutton was injured, he really kind of didn't do anything to stand out. So that's what I'm a little concerned with Courtland Sutton coming back. And then you're going to Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback potentially, who's not really the best downfield thrower. So Jerry Jeudy is a little concerning. Steelers defense, he reached for him high. He also reached for Younghoe Koo really high too. He took Leonard Fournette, which is it's just I know he had a good playoff run, but Leonard Fournette is a guy that is very touchdown dependent. Corey Davis, not a good pick either. Darnell Mooney for Chicago, that could be a good pickup. Philip Lindsay's not bad either, but there's a lot of questions on the, what their how their team will look. And then he's got, so then this is the kind of stuff that you don't do. He's got Jared Cook as a backup tight end. You got to just commit to either Logan Thomas or Jared Cook. If you take both on your roster, then either one of them is not as valuable as a guy like Alexander Madison, the top backup to the number 2 drafted player in fantasy football, because they have a ton of value if anything were to happen to Madison, or you could trade him to the Cook owner and get a lot of value from him there. So that's to me not a very good decision. And then he's got Ryan Fitzpatrick why do you need Ryan Fitzpatrick on your roster if you already have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? Cut Fitzpatrick, pick up a running back that you can use to stash in case one of your other running backs gets injured. If Aaron Jones gets hurt for this guy, he literally is just done. And then he's got 2 defenses. He's got Steelers and Packers. Why are you ever going to need another defense if you're starting the Steelers defense, especially if you reach for the Steelers defense? It's just, I'm not trying to just make fun of this guy, but I'm just illustrating a point that these are the kind of mistakes that you don't want to do in fantasy football, because if you do this kind of stuff, then when you get injuries, then you're going to be just totally SOL when you're trying to scramble for other options. So let's say, for example, this guy, and this could very well happen because it does. Let's say Aaron Jones gets injured, and then the following week, Myles Gaskin gets injured, and then you're out for the season on both of them. Now you have to basically, your only two running backs left are Fournette and Phillip Lindsay, both of which probably won't get enough carries to justify being a starting running back, in my opinion. You're only relying on Fournette for touchdowns, and then Phillip Lindsay, you have to rely on all kinds of stuff like David Johnson not panning out, other running backs not panning out. You know, even if they can even get a competent quarterback to play the position, because they've got a lot of issues going on there. It's just, that is why you want to stock up on as many running backs as you can. And what this guy needs to do, if this was actually a real team, is cut Cook, Fitzpatrick, and the Packers D and pick up running backs at all those positions, because it doesn't make any sense to have multiple tight ends, quarterbacks, or defenses for that reason. So I go on aside for that to just let you know what mistakes people make in fantasy football. But yeah, so I will be doing this every weekend leading up to the season starting. We'll evaluate things as we kind of go along, and then I'll finish up my strategy videos in August leading up to the season. And then once we get around to the season, I'm going to be doing my plan is at the beginning of the week, I'm going to do buy low, sell high, waivers, recaps, stock up, stock down, things like that. Really focusing on the economics of these players, because if you really kind of treat these players as if they're stock assets, or like a house property you're trying to flip. If you own a house now, you might be trying to sell it around now because the market's really high, something like that. That's kind of how you should be looking at some of these players in certain situations. And I'm going to be talking about that specifically, players that you can use for ways that you can benefit, and do that week by week. So I'll do one video of that at the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to do just a generic mailbag. If you comment your questions, I will answer them in this video, probably Saturday night leading up to the Sunday games. Excuse me. Something to that effect. So yeah, so keep an eye out for that. If you didn't tune into the live portion of this video and you watched later, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. And if you got any questions, feel free to ask. Like I said, I only have 89 subscribers, so I will probably be able to answer your question, probably get back to you, and probably will even answer it in more depth on the channel too. So let me know, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.